Greetings, YouTube! How's it going? This is Venger as Satanis, Cult of Cthulhu High Priest, and I'm going to open with a quote from Gerard Haven's Creating a Soul, great fourth way book. Intentionality is the attitude that connects suffering to one's higher possibilities. It means that one accepts suffering knowingly and deliberately. Not that one seeks it out, just as one knowingly and deliberately sets down a glass, if that happens to be what is needed in the moment, but does not spend time looking for glasses to move about. It means facing one's suffering and swallowing it whole. In this way, necessary and unnecessary suffering can be distinguished, and real suffering can be separated from that which has been created artificially through imagination and identification. More wise words. So I've got a new pyramid model, if you will, right here. Now, as you can see, this is going to be difficult to see. What I mean by that is, in order to see the whole thing in this little screen, you're going to miss a lot of the little details. So I will go over it a little bit at a time and walk you through this. But you might have to go to the Cult of Cthulhu forum, where there's a large image right on the thread, the Christianity and Satanism thread, in order to, fully grasp and see all the little details. But anyway, let's go through it now. Hopefully it won't be too confusing. Let's see. Well, let's start at the bottom. This is the bottom of the pyramid, where everything is associated or corresponds to Earth, nature, universe A, everything that's low and base. Here, this is modern Satanism over here, and this is contemporary Christianity over here, which are two sides of the same coin, really. And they're both very mechanical religions, or philosophies, if you will. You see over here, on the left side, you've got the arrow going down, because this side corresponds to the primitive instincts. And this side over here, on the right, corresponds to higher forces. See, that's going up. And on the right, on both sides, at the bottom, you have the right-hand path, which keeps mankind a slave. And it's all about conformity, herd mentality, not living up to your potential, not rising above your own circumstances and overcoming not only yourself, but reality and the whole prison we live in. At the very top, here, you've got the left-hand path. So the higher up you go in the pyramid, the more left-hand path. And now you're thinking, left-hand path equals Satanism. Otherwise, my brain explodes. Well, that's not actually the truth, because the more mechanical you have your Satanism, as in modern Satanism, most of the time, or for most practitioners, the more right-hand path it is. The more mechanical it is, the more base it is, the less powerful, the less the individual can get out of it, the less gnosis. You're a very mechanical roadblock. You're asleep and you're stuck in a rut, more or less, that you can't get out of. So, okay, so we got the bottom of the pyramid, right-hand path, mechanical, asleep, Earth, nature, universe A. Alright. So as we go up the pyramid, there are different things that we've got to encounter and battle and be aware of. We've got self-remembering, very important fourth way concept. And all these pretty much correspond in some way to the fourth way. Gurdjieff, Ouspensky. Observation, looking at yourself. Separation. Separation of attention. and separation from yourself, from whatever is outside of you. Okay, imagination, pretending that you have will, that you can do things, that you're God at this moment, that you're, the best thing since sliced bread. That's imagination. There are many eyes, there are many different aspects of our personality. There are many eyes, and without knowing that, well, you don't really know your machine at all. Which can, how can you run your machine if you don't know what it is or how it operates? Magnetic center, if you get enough eyes together that know each other and that want to work, you can create a magnetic center. And that's the final motivating factor to get you basically off your ass and working towards awakening. Okay, negativity, that's a big thing we've got to combat. I don't think there's a human alive that isn't succumb to negativity at one point or another. It's very destructive, and it just is a stumbling block and a roadblock, an obstacle for all of us. Attitude. If you don't have the right attitude, basically if you have a shitty attitude, that's not going to help you at all. Identification. If you see something, and like if you're watching, let's say, a football game or something like that, and you get all caught up because your team is either winning or losing, well, part of your real true self is then gone. You have identified with that game or that football team to such an extent that you are no longer present or aware or conscious. You're being driven along by other forces, other things, External versus internal consideration. So we want external consideration rather than internal. You don't always want to be thinking about yourself like, oh, how can I gain from this situation? Or, what would make me happier in this scenario? Sometimes you have to think about the other person, what they would want. Just if you're playing a game of chess, you have to think about how the other person feels, not just you. Intentional suffering. Like the quote I just read from, in order to suffer, the world is full of suffering, and that's the one thing that binds us all together. Everybody suffers in this world. But if you can do it knowingly, and consciously, and intentionally, take that suffering upon yourself and do it because you want to be it and overcome it and master it. Then you transcend suffering into a whole different level where you can gain energy from it and consciousness, and it'll help you awaken. And that's when you start to develop will, as well as conscience, and aim. You gotta have an aim. Obviously, one of our aims is awakening, and as we'll see later, to become one of the gods ourselves. But you should also have a personal aim, something more worldly, something selfish, and something selfless, probably. Loyalty, very important. Loyalty to the school, loyalty to the teacher, loyalty to the great old ones, the dark gods, the left-hand path, loyalty to your brothers. And then at the opposite of mechanical, you have organic. Because right now, all men are machines. When you get to this level, you stop becoming a machine, and you start actually being a man, being, a thinking, feeling, willing organism. And that's when you develop consciousness. And that's when you awake. And up here, still in the primitive instinct side of the left, you have Levian Satanism and Luciferianism. And now opposite here, you've got Gnostic and esoteric Christianity. So you go up beyond this part of the pyramid, and then you've got, not that I know a ton about them, but I know quite a bit. I was affiliated with them for about 2 years. So you have the Temple of Set. I have a lot of respect for them. They're very insular, and they don't really talk with or hang out with or discuss things with outsiders, people that aren't members of the Temple of Set, which I don't really like that aspect. But for what they do it well. Then you got Buddhism, which is kind of in the middle, the ultimate balance between the primitive instincts and the higher forces. And then you have most fourth way schools. Then up here, the green trapezoid portion, you've got the cult of Cthulhu with the eye, because our eyes are open and we are more or less awake, or striving to become awake. We're on the path, we're on the road, we're heading there, we know where we're going, we know that the journey is long and hard, and we're going there. We use Lovecraft's mythos, the Cthulhu mythos, and we use the fourth way, other things like little bits of Buddhism and Gnostic Christianity and esotericism, a little bit of Levian Satanism, Luciferianism, things we picked up from the Temple of Set, Thelema, and there are other different organizations and groups and cults and sects that I didn't mention on here that probably should be mentioned or could be put on this somewhere, but I just didn't have time and I didn't want it to look like a big giant mess. So this is the cult of Cthulhu. And, from my humble opinion, I think we are the closest to getting to where we really want to go, which is the gods, right here, this little triangle on top. And that's the top of the pyramid. So that's what we're trying to become, is like the gods. And then above here, you've got the supernatural, universe B, ultra-telluric, which just means, beyond earthly. And that is the opposite of what we had down here, which was Earth, Nature, Universe A. And as you can see, I've called this little pyramid diagram Octave 1. So you can see all this is one giant octave. And it's the first octave that you should be thinking about, because it's the beginning of it all. It's an explanation of the whole movement, the whole philosophical and spiritual trichotomy that we're going for. So that wraps that up, I guess. Like I said, you can see the whole big thing on the forum, the Cult of Cthulhu forum. I hope you check that out. That should be the end of this video. If you have questions or comments, please direct them to the forum or the little comment section down below here, and I'd be happy to discuss it. Alright, yeah, Cthulhu for talking.